So I'm just going to read them. Make sure you have those answers. For number 3, the equation was y equals 1/3 x minus 1. Number 4, you could have wrote it either way, negative 2x, y equals negative 2/5 x, or y equals negative 2/5 x plus 0. 5 was y equals negative 1x plus 4, or you could have left out the 1, y equals negative x plus 4.
I don't think that's right.
For number 7.
If you have a question, wait until the end. Let me go over the answers first, and then I'll go back over your questions. For 6, the equation was y equals negative 2x plus 2. 7, you could have written it either way. Y equals negative 1/2. Y equals negative 1/2 x plus 2, or y equals negative x over 2 plus 2. 8 was y equals negative x minus 3. 9 was y equals 2/3 x minus 2. 10 was y equals negative 2x minus 1. 11 was y equals 5 over 2x minus 7. 12 was y equals 5x plus 5. 13 was y equals negative 4 over 3x plus 4. 14 and 15, you could write it either way. Y equals 1/2 x minus 2, or y equals x over 2 minus 2. And then 15, y equals negative x over 3 minus 1, or y equals negative 1/3 x minus 1.
Alright, Josh has a pretty one. So for 11, I got 2 and a 1. Oh, it was for all of them. It was like, is x just represent 1? And then I thought of it and it was less.
Okay.
But now, for 11, I got 2 and 1/2 x. How?
Okay, so you change it to a mixed fraction. Leave it as an improper fraction. Okay.
Is it okay if you switch the slope and intercept? Because I got y equals 2 minus 2x.
Okay, so in this case, it needs to be slope first, then y-intercept. So, no. Brianna.
So, I'm confused because on the compound one, there's x equal.
Okay, so how is that related to this right now?
Just call it a compound usually.
Imagine me as just imagine.
Do we have
Imagine you. Okay.
Do we have any other questions on this?
No, Miss George.
Right. You should have another sheet of paper on your desk that looks like this. But you need to be paying attention because this is new.
Oh, are you ready? Wait, I thought this was fun.
Guys, you realize she's waiting for you guys to stop talking in order to start her lesson, so you might as well just stop hanging out with me on.
Funny. If you're not led this week, can I have some?
I don't know if it's the right size.
I need 0.7.
I don't know if I have that size, but
Sorry guys, I really need lead to do my work. This is 0.7.
Alright, so for these, I know last class we talked about writing these equations from slope and y-intercept, from the graph, and then converting. So this is somewhat the same, but a little different. Because in these cases, you're given the slope and you're given a point instead of slope and y-intercept. So we have to do work to find the y-intercept.
Put it on your desk.
Thank you. The first thing we need to do before we do anything else, what's the equation or what's the format of the equation we've been writing these in?
Y equals
MX.
So that's the slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. We're going to use that on this entire page, so we need to keep that in mind.
Yes.
Alright, now, because we're given a point and a slope, in that ordered pair we're given a y value, but that's not your y-intercept. So don't assume that it's going to be y equals 3x plus 1, because it's not. However, we are going to use this so that we can find our y-intercept. In this ordered pair, which one of these is x? 2. So I'm going to label that, which means y is 1. What's the variable for slope? 3. That's a number.
X.
Y.
M.
Oh.
So here we have x, we have y, we have m. The only thing we're missing is b. So we are going to use this equation to find b. So for each variable that you know, you're going to put that number in. So where y is, that's going to be 1. So where m is, that's going to be 3. Where x is, that's going to be 2. And then plus b.
So they're gonna be like, would the Y be gone? Y.
So I'm so confused.
I get it.
So if you have two coordinates, would it be the same thing, but just adding one of those to
1.
either two?
But what about the B though?
We need to find b. What's 3 times 2? 6. How would I solve for b?
Inverse.
Subtract 6. So b equals negative 5.
It. Yes.
So now we have our y-intercept. We have our slope, we have our y-intercept, we can write our equation. But when we write our equation, we are not going to put those points back in. It's just going to become x and y. So y equals 3x
Equals.
minus 5.
Oh. Oh. Man, let me get one.
What happened to the X?
I got it.
What?
What
What happened to the? What happened to
The 2 and the 1?
yeah?
We don't need them anymore because we found b. We were looking for b. Now that we found it, they can go back to being x and y.
So the 2 just goes away.
Yes. Remember that it wasn't there originally. We put that in.
Okay, let's go. I really get this.
On the test.
Let's do a couple more together. For number 2, which one of these order pairs is our x? 4. That makes 2 our y. And 1/2 is m. So we are again going to put this into our equation. Y equals mx plus b.
Is that a fraction?
So y, you're going to put 2. For m, you're going to put 1/2. For x, you're going to put 4 plus b.
Yes, it's 1/2.
on your paper.
I was saying like.
What's 1/2 times 4? 2.
What? Is it point? Wouldn't it be 0.5 times 4? And it's just a half of that. You see, I'm on a roll. What do you think?
What's b?
0.
No, 0. Because you subtract 2, so b equals 0. What's our equation? Oh, sorry.
Y equals
1/2x. And you can put plus 0
Plus.
if you want. Either one.
Alright.
I didn't get it.
You'll get it.
But I thought the answer was -5.
B is -5. We were trying to find
Oh,
this.
is it because 2 on this side, 2 on this side, and 2 on that side cancel out?
You're subtracting.
Yeah, so it'd be -2 and then -2, which is equal to 3 equals 0. Man, I'm so nice.
Alright, let's do one more. Which one do we want to do?
3.
Good. I heard 3 first. I want you guys to actually try 6.
What should you do?
Oh, come on.
We can put fractions in the calculator, so
Alright, so same thing. Put this into y equals mx plus b. So this is going to be -7 equals -1 times 4 plus b.
Go slower.
don't get it.
Yeah, I said -4, but I meant positive 4.
Alright, so -7.
Equals
-1 times 4 is
Times 4 plus b.
Positive 4? -4.
-4.
I knew that. What? Of course.
So how would we solve for b in this case? Plus 4. Add 4. So b is going to be b is going to be -3. There should not be side conversations right now.
I'm saying.
So,
Yes.
would the equation be y equals -1x minus 3?
Yes.
I just don't understand how you get 3.
Or y equals -x minus 3.
How did you get the -3?
She subtracted -4.
Added.
Oh. Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Sometimes I get confused because my B's look like 6s, and I was like,
I want you to go ahead and do 4, 5, and 6. If you have questions, I'll be around, then we'll come back and talk about the answers. Alright, Alexander's up here!
Yeah, I can tell. You have 7 people. You're on it.
He's just roast tomorrow. I'm
Eyes and ears up here! Josh, go back to your seat. Alright, I'm going to explain what your peers did. I don't even know. Christina, you did this. Okay. So Christina put these into the equation, and then she multiplied, and she subtracted to get b equals -55. I am going to change one thing because you don't need both of these. So the equation was y equals 8x minus 55. And then Alex did the same thing for this one. Put these into the equation, multiply this to get -4, and then added 4 to get b equals 9. So your equation was y equals -2x plus 9. Brianna, stop talking.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And then Zia did this one. So with this one, when you multiplied or you put them in and then you multiplied, you ended up with some fraction or decimal. Leave your slope as a fraction, -9/2. And when you add that to the other side, you get 17/2, or as a decimal, 8.5. So this was a case where you had a decimal for your y-intercept, which, remember, that's okay because we're not graphing it. If we were graphing it, it would need to be whole. Do we have any questions on those three?
Nope. I think this one, this is easy. Good for you, Joe.
Alright, now, on the bottom section, so the top section we had 1 point and we had the slope. So we had to find the y-intercept. Now we're not given the slope. So that means we have to find the slope and then find the y-intercept to find our equation. So there's more work in this one. So in order to find our slope, we have to use y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Remember that your y's have to go on top. It does not matter which one you put first, as long as whatever one you put first matches whatever x you put underneath it. The columns must match up. So let's go ahead and do number 1. Let's label them. And then we're going to go ahead and put this into the slope formula. 4 minus 1 over 2 minus 3. 4 minus 1 is
3.
3. 2 minus 3,
-1.
-1. So this is really just -3. So that's our slope. And now we're kind of at the same step as we were for the top 6. We need a point to put it into the equation. But you're given 2 points.
Why is it -3?
-3 over -1 is -3. Because you're given 2 points, you have an option. You can choose which point you want to use. Don't use both, but you can choose either one. Now, I'm going to do both to show you that they both work.
Wait, miss.
Yes.
Does the 2 have to go before the 1? The x2 and the y? I mean, can the, so you have the x2 minus x1, right? Could you put x1 and then minus x2?
As long as you did y1 minus y2.
Oh,
You have to switch both if you're going to switch one of them.
alright.
Alright, so let's say we chose this first order pair. So we have y equals 1. Your slope is -3. Your x is 3, and we're looking for b.
But she's
Wait, I'm
also one
confused.
side. Okay, I got it.
The same way we were doing the top.
Miss Thorpe, can I do it?
Three times -3 is
0.
no.
Oh.
-9. So if you add 9, what is b?
10.
10. So our equation is y equals -3
Plus
x plus 1.
Justice,
you're about to Now that's if you chose the first order pair. You don't need to do the second part, but if you chose the second one instead, which was 2, 4, this would be 4 equals -3 times 2 plus b.
So it's still saying it doesn't matter which
It
point.
does not matter which point you choose. You just can't mix and match. You can't choose this X and this Y. It has to be one order pair or the other.
So you still
Wait, I
get
kind of don't get these.
As long as you do your math correctly.
I don't get these.
It's basically the same thing.
No, not that part. This part, the 3 and 1 and 2 and 3.
This,
No, go on.
the slope.
I mean, that's what this is.
Hold on. Negative 3 times 2 is what's negative 3 times 2? Negative 6. So if we add 6, B is still 10, so you would still get this equation. So as long as you find the correct slope, you get your slope correctly, and then you pick one of the points and you do that math correctly, you should get the correct. I took these and put it in. Right? Now, I will say this, anytime you have ordered pairs that have zeros in them, use that one. It'll make your life a little bit easier.
What is that?
Alright, what questions do we have
What is that?
right now?
Actually, the slow question. Yeah, so how do you do that? So, after you get the
Guys, be quiet.
So the 1
Brianna, be quiet.
would be x1, right? And then 12 would be y1. And then 4 would be
We're gonna
x2.
do another example.
Oh, my.
Alright, for number 2. Same thing. We need to find our slope first. So label them if you need to. So that's going to be negative 8 minus 12 over 4 minus negative 1. Remember, when you have a negative and a subtraction sign, it's really a plus. They're going to come together and make a plus. Negative 8 minus 12 is what?
Negative 20.
Negative 20. And then 4 minus negative 1 is going to be 5. So negative 20 over 5 is
As 4.
negative 4. So now we have our slope. We're not going to do both, but both would work. Which point do we want to use?
Let's use 1 and 12.
So for negative 1 and 12, that's going to be 12 equals negative 4 times negative 1 plus 8. Negative 4 times negative 1 is what?
Positive 4.
Positive 4. So what would B be?
3.
You're not dividing, you're subtracting, so 8. What's your equation?
8. Oh, wait, no. It's,
Y equals
what is
negative
it?
4x plus 8.
Yes.
Why are you bringing deodorant?
Those of you who are not paying attention, when we have our quiz on Monday and you don't get this because you're not paying attention, I'm just going to say you should have paid attention. Brianna, that's you. Pay attention.
Alright, go ahead.
Josh, you're the class.
No, I got
I do have a question.
Yes.
So like on the ones that we're working on now, if it's like 2 sets of ordered pairs, once you find them, then do you only pick one set of words
Yes,
or pair?
only pick one. Don't need both.
So on the quiz, like, you'll have the answers for like those, like.
So the quiz is going to be everything we learned today and yesterday. Or and last week.
You know, I was
Do we have a Khan Academy this week? Oh, we already did. Never mind.
Alright, so I need you to go ahead and do 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about those answers.
Okay, so come here. Just leave it right there.
So there's a lot going on up here, so I'm just going to read them off.
Oh.
What the? So for number 3, you have to find your slope first. You should have gotten negative 2/3 as that slope. Pick one of the points. I used this one because it had a 0 in it. So when I multiplied these two together, I got 14/3. Because it is a fraction or a decimal, leave that as a fraction in this case only because this has repeating 3's if you get a decimal. So your equation for that one was y equals negative 2/3 x minus 14/3. Yeah, it's negative 14/3. For number 4, your slope was positive 5. And after you picked a point, so I used 0, 8. When I put 0 in, this gave me 0, and I found that b was 8. So your equation was y equals 5x plus 8. For number 5, after you found your slope, Soren, you should have found that it was negative 3. I used the 0, 0, and when I put those in, I found that 0 was your y-intercept. You can also kind of tell that if you remember anything about x and y-intercepts, it's 0, 0, so y has to be 0. So your equation here was y equals negative 3x, or y equals negative 3x plus 0. And then for 6, your slope ended up being negative 1 after you simplify. So all of these need to be simplified as much as possible. And then when you picked a point, it didn't matter which one. I think I did both here. You got 3 as your y-intercept, so y equals negative x plus 3, or y equals negative 1x plus 3 was your answer. Yes,
So the y. What's the second y? That's always a y.
No. This one happened to be our y-intercept because this is the order pair at the origin at 0, 0. So it would cross the y-axis at 0. This would be a y-intercept because x is 0. But no, it doesn't always work like that. Do we have any other questions on this? So on the back of that sheet, I know some of you already started this, is your homework. Start working on that. If you finish it, you can come get it checked, but that needs to be done first.
Oh, she wants to go to last class. I did English and I started that. Last class, so I don't have to resit today.
Ronnie, why you keep looking at me? Abby,
Guys! So that will be due next class. After that, you have a couple different choices. Do more of your Khan Academy, if you didn't do the ones for this week, or if you want to start on next week's, which are just what we did today. Also, you have a quiz on Monday. So if you would like to take that quiz today instead of Monday, you have that choice, but your homework needs to be done first.
Push.
Okay?
Agreed.
So you have those options. Whatever you're doing, you need to be in a seat and not yelling, because you guys have a habit of getting way too loud.
You're right.
I wonder why.
I'm not even